liked Corduroy. He had a nice Valiant story.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. He overcame lots of challenges on his own and you know, faced adversity there. But I don't remember particular stories, but I think my parents more so kind of just instilled values through, like, in other ways, through, you know, through religion, through just, you know, just trying to set a good example. It wasn't necessarily all about stories and, you know, trying to make everything about a fairy tale. I think my parents tried to kind of take a more practical approach, as just, you know, being a good person and trying to, you know, do unto others as you'd want done to yourself, basically. I think it was just more basic, is in that way, and then setting good examples.
Okay, let me see. In Brazil, we have the same stories we have here. I think they're similar. But the one I really like is João and Maria, John and Mary. It's about two children that were like walking around in the forest and found a big house, like covered with, what do you say, goodies?
Oh, it's like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah. And then I love the story because I remember when they go into through the forest, they were worried about getting lost, and they left some pieces of bread on the way. And when they decided to come back, the birds had gotten everything. That it happens with me till today because I'm always lost. Then I always remember about that story.
I think kids are now, it really depends on the kid. There's a lot of, at least the kids I babysat, some parents don't even let their kids watch TV anymore, which is probably a good thing. But I've also not noticed that there's a lot of television and stuff that has to do with, like, teaching kids about, you know, like, safety and morals and all that stuff. I don't know how much of it necessarily sticks. I think a lot of it, learning, reading stories and hearing about stories, whether it is reading or it's, you know, television or a movie or something, it still has to be interpreted for children, which I think is usually parents or teachers or someone's there to help guide you. So then it, you know, especially when children, sentences are all disjointed, because children like to hear stories like over and over again. So I think that probably helps in, like, reinforcing some ideas, but I don't think they necessarily realize that that's happening to them.
So I've done a lot of babysitting, and I would rather read to a child than watch TV, but I've had a bit of both worlds, and oh my goodness, I've been so frustrated sometimes when trying to read to kids these days and finding the book they give me to read. The last one was something in the Care Bears Wish Adventure, and there was nothing, there was no depth. The Care Bear made too many wishes, and then he invited friends over who made lots of wishes, and the wishing star ran out of wishes and had to go get charged up by the wishing cloud. And that was it. That was the whole fiber of the whole story. And it's all I could do to not stop and put it down or make up something else. I probably could have done that. But I think that's kind of a common theme of, like, kids are little, they can't understand anything bigger than this. They love, let's give them some, you know, fluffy bears with shapes on their tummies, and use words that are below their cognitive level. My parents would always read books that were too hard for my brother and I, that had bigger words. I remember them reading me a book when I was 12 that was college vocabulary, and just things like that. It was really stimulating for me. Whereas I think these days people are like, you know, they're kids, you know, let's give them something that's really watered down. I think that's foolish.
You know, there's all those stories, like, everyone poops and, like, I have a big sister now, and, like, those stories are useful, and they're fun, and, you know, it's just a way to, like, introduce that idea slowly through a way that, like, oh, this person in this story had a little sister, so, like, it's okay if you do too. So I love reading those kinds of stories to little kids, because I think they don't necessarily get it, that it's, like, kind of about them, but I think you do when you're older. You realize you're like, oh, that's why like I read this story. And I don't know, it's just very interesting to see that happen for little children too.
Well, stories were a huge part of my childhood, both stories that my parents would tell about their own lives and stories that they would read in books. I don't remember a time that they didn't read out loud to my brother and I know that they continued until he was 15 or so. So I remember the last book that we read together, so I must have been about 13. But so I've grown up with this great love for stories and for story time and doing that together with my parents. And some of my favorites through the years, the ones that really stand out to me, were of course the Chronicles of Narnia, hands down. Some of the themes of adventure, and all the characters were 11, 12, 13 years old. And once they passed 13, they didn't come back to Narnia anymore. So then the younger group came, and so that was really relatable. But also there were lots of broader themes and messages in those books, more than just talking animals and witches and ice and snow and things like that.